All right, good morning, everyone. Everyone is here now, and we've received the message to get started. So I will call the case of Marks versus Sonny's Rooftop Bar. I am Judge Michael Iyer, and scoring judges, if you please look to the two buttons on the lower left of your screen and turn off your audio and video. These should remain off until trial ends. You should also have your video set to hide all non-video participants. This means the only people on the screen right now should be the advocate and me. Can the attorneys please state their appearances at this time?
Appearances from the plaintiff, Your Honor.
Yes.
Good morning, Your Honor. Luke Morales for the plaintiff, Ethel Marks.
All right, thank you.
Good morning, Your Honor. My name is Hannah Lay, and today I'll be representing the defendant, Sonny's Rooftop Bar. Today, I'm joined by my co-counsel, Isabella Acosta.
All right, thank you very much.
Your Honor, before we proceed today's trial, the plaintiff has a few preliminary matters we would like to address.
All right, let's go ahead and address those at this time then.
Yes, Your Honor. Today, the plaintiff has brought exhibits 1 through 27, which have been pre-marked for identification before today's trial. We would like to do so for the members of the jury as well.
All right.
Your Honor, we would like to also invoke Rule 603. This would constructively swear in all witnesses prior to testimony.
Yes, they will be constructively sworn. I won't be swearing individually each witness.
Thank you, Your Honor. Finally, Your Honor, we would like to invoke Rule 613, which states that all witnesses are considered constructively sequestered, with the exception of any party representatives that may exist in today's case.
Right. The party representatives have a right to be present at the stages of the proceedings, and other than that, then other witnesses will be constructively sequestered.
Thank you, Your Honor. At this time, one last preliminary matter, we would like to designate Sonny Maida as a party representative of the defendant in today's case.
All right.
With that, Your Honor, the plaintiff has no more preliminary matters.
All right. Do we have any preliminary matters from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. We would first like to ask if exhibits should be considered constructively outside the view of the jury before being entered into evidence.
Yes, they will be.
All right, and with that, the defense is also ready to proceed.
All right. Then at this point, then, why don't we proceed with opening statements? We'll now hear from each party. Everyone, again, should make sure that they are in speaker view. That button is in the upper right of your screen. Attorneys, please remember to mute your audio when the other attorney is speaking. So then, Mr. Morales, if you are ready, you may proceed at any time.
Yes, Your Honor. It's 11:45 p.m., March 24th, 2019. Jessica Marks and her friend Morgan Levin are just leaving Sonny's Rooftop Bar. They've been drinking for hours. Jessica Marks gets behind the wheel of her car and starts to drive along Pacific Coast Highway. But within minutes, she starts to swerve as she loses control of her vehicle and slams through the divider, plummeting into a ravine. Within moments, authorities arrive. They pull Jessica from the wreckage, only to find that they're already too late. Jessica Marks was dead. Members of the jury, Jessica Marks died because the defendant, Sonny's Rooftop Bar, didn't listen, didn't try, they just didn't care. Members of the jury, today the plaintiff has brought a claim of wrongful death against the defendant, Sonny's Rooftop Bar, a violation of Section 25602.1 of the California Business and Professions Code. Members of the jury, in order for the plaintiff to prove that the defendant caused the death of Jessica Marks, we must prove that 1, Jessica Marks was served alcohol by the defendant while a reasonable person would have been able to recognize she was intoxicated. And 2, that the drinks Jessica Marks served while she seemed obviously intoxicated were a substantial cause in her death on the night of March 24th. Members of the jury, we bear the burden of proof in today's case. By the end of today's trial, we will meet our burden and show that despite Sonny's rooftop bar had a responsibility to not serve alcohol to obviously intoxicated minors, that's just what they did to Jessica Marks on the night of March 24th, 2019. Today, you'll hear from Morgan Levin. She'll tell you about how the defendant didn't listen. She'll tell you about how Sonny Maida, the owner of Sonny's rooftop bar, continued to serve Jessica drink after drink, even after she was already slurring her words, couldn't even stand up straight. Morgan Levin will tell you about how the defendant didn't try. She'll tell you about how the defendant never once asked Jessica if she felt okay or how much she had to drink, and never at any point did the defendant try to stop serving Jessica Marks alcohol. And finally, members of the jury, Morgan Levin will tell you about how the defendant simply didn't care. You'll hear that at one point, the owner of Sonny's rooftop bar, Sonny Maida, who will appear in court in front of you today, actually made a comment about Jessica Marks looking intoxicated that night. I hope this one's not driving. You'll hear that even after Sonny Maida made that comment, he proceeded to serve Jessica Marks shots of liquor before she was about to drive home that night. Members of the jury, by the end of today's trial, the decision you must make will be clear. It will be clear that the defendant, Sonny's rooftop bar, served Jessica Marks, an obviously intoxicated minor, on the night of March 24th, 2019. It will be clear that because the defendant didn't listen, didn't try, and didn't care, that Jessica Marks lost her life on the night of March 24th. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Morales. And Ms. Lee, at this time, are you prepared to give the defense opening?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed anytime you are ready.
May it please the court. She called the shots. Jessica Marks stumbles out the door of Sonny's rooftop bar. It's been a long night, 2.5 hours of drinking, and now she has a 30-minute drive from Malibu to Brentwood waiting for her. Her best friend, Morgan Levin, well, Ms. Levin's called a cab, offered Jessica a spot, offered her a way out, but members of the jury, today you're going to learn that Jessica Marks doesn't take the way out. She doesn't decide to get in the cab, she decides to get in her own car. Now, at this point, it's still not too late. She can still say, never mind, I'll take the cab, get the car tomorrow. A couple things flash briefly through her mind. Trunk driving presentations in school auditoriums, the lecture she'd have waiting if her parents ever found out. But tonight, Jessica Marks is calling the shots. She doesn't turn around. She turns the keys in the ignition, she drives. And at this point, there's no turning back. Members of the jury, we all know how that story ends. Now, the plaintiff, they've come up here and told you that Sonny's rooftop bar didn't listen, didn't see, didn't try, and didn't care. But you can't listen to something that isn't there. You can't try to fix a problem you don't know about. You can't care, and you don't know you should. They're trying to find someone to blame, but they're looking in the wrong place. See, they have a burden today. They have to prove every element of their claim by a preponderance of the evidence, but they won't be able to prove that anyone at Sonny's rooftop bar actually saw Jessica Marks being obviously intoxicated. We're going to call the bar owner himself. Sonny met that to the stand, and he's going to confirm this for you. He's going to tell you, and you're going to learn that Jessica Marks never actually was exhibiting those symptoms. And that means Sonny's rooftop bar can't be responsible. But further than that, we're going to ask you to consider a difficult question. We've raised an affirmative defense today that asks you to consider who's really responsible. To do that, you have to understand that you and I, we all have a duty to use reasonable care to avoid creating dangerous situations, not just for other people, but for ourselves. Jessica Marks, well, she was no different. Today, you're going to learn that the consequences she faced were the consequences of her own actions. You're going to learn that before she even steps foot in Sunny's rooftop bar, she decides to drink at home. And after she drinks, she decides to drive to the bar. And at the bar, she decides to go hard. She calls the shots, but also the wine, the beer, the seltzers. And after all those drinks, she makes her last decision. She decides to drive home. And she ends up at the bottom of a ravine. Time and time again, Jessica Marks calls the shots. She makes dangerous decisions, and today you're going to find that those decisions killed her. At the end of today's trial, we're going to ask you to answer that difficult question, to decide who's really responsible, and we trust that you'll find Sunny's rooftop bar not liable. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Lee. At this time, before we call the first witness, and ask that everybody switch to gallery view. That button is in the upper right of your screen, and that will allow you to see the attorneys and witnesses of this at the same time. And so at this point then, Mr. Morales, do you wish to call plaintiff's first witness?
I do, Your Honor. At this time, the plaintiff calls Morgan Levin. May I proceed, Your Honor?
Anytime you're ready to inquire.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you please introduce yourself to the members of the jury?
Hello, my name is Morgan Levin.
Ms. Levin, I'm going to jump right into it. At some point during your time in high school, did you ever meet someone by the name of Jessica Marks?
Yeah, I did. Jessica was my best friend. We did everything together. We were really close.
Now, I need to ask you some questions about March 24th, 2019. I understand this might be a little difficult for you, but I want you to bear with me for just a moment, okay?
Okay.
When was the first time you saw Jessica on March 24th?
It was around 6 p.m. Jessica picked me up from my dorm room in her car, and we went to her Airbnb.
Where did the two of you go? Or rather, what were the two of you doing at that Airbnb? Excuse me.
Well, we had been listening to music, just talking a little bit, and we shared about a half of a bottle of wine.
Miss Levin, where did the two of you go after being at that Airbnb?
When we left, Jessica drove us to Sunny's rooftop bar.
Around what time did the two of you get there?
It was about a 45-minute drive, so we got there around 9 p.m.
Miss Levin, you just told us that back at the Airbnb, Jessica was drinking wine. Did you see her start to exhibit any signs of intoxication when the two of you got to Sunny's?
Yes, right when I got there, that was when she started to act a little bit drunk.
Why do you say she started to act drunk?
Well, she was slurring her words and being really loud. She started to smell like alcohol, and I can tell that that's what she acts like when she's drunk.
When the two of you got to the bar, who was serving you drinks?
His name was Sunny Mehta, and he was the owner. He took our drinks and brought them to us when they were ready.
Your Honor, at this time, plaintiff requests to screen share Exhibit 17 constructively outside the view of the jury.
All right.
Ms. Levin, do you recognize what this document is?
Yes, I do. That's our receipt from March 24th of 2019.
Is this a fair and accurate copy of that receipt?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, at this time, plaintiff moves Exhibit 17 into evidence.
Will there be any objections?
Without objection, Your Honor.
All right, then Exhibit 17 is admitted.
Your Honor, permission to also publish Exhibit 17 to the jury.
It may be published.
Ms. Levin, let's start with that first transaction, decoy red blend. What was that?
That was the first thing we ordered. It was a bottle of wine. I had one glass of it.
Do you know if Jessica Marks drank the rest of that entire bottle of wine?
Well, I can't know for sure, but we continued ordering drinks, so I do believe that she did.
Let's go down to that third transaction on the list. 3 White Claws. Did you order those?
No, I don't like White Claws, but Jessica Marks did, so she must have ordered them.
Miss Levin, just to be clear, was it Jessica who ordered all 3?
Yes, she did.
Was it Sunny Maida who brought her all 3 of those drinks?
Yes.
Let's go down to those 2 IPAs. Did Jessica have one of those too?
Yes, she had one of them and I had the other one.
Finally, there is a transaction for green tea shots. Were those shots of hard liquor?
Yes, it mixed 2 liquors together.
Did Jessica have one of those shots of liquor?
She did, yes. That was the last thing that we had before leaving.
Miss Levin, I just want to be clear for the members of the jury. Did Sunny Maida serve you all the drinks on that receipt?
Yes, Sunny did. She took all of the orders and brought all the drinks.
I want to talk about a specific transaction on that receipt, those shots. Were those shots your last round of drinks for the night?
Yes, they were.
Miss Levin, around what time were those shots brought to you?
I would say it was around 11 p.m.
As Sunny Maida kept on serving the 2 of you drinks throughout the night, did Jessica start to exhibit any more signs of intoxication?
She definitely did, yes. Her cheeks and eyes started to get more red. I could tell she was making less sense, slurring her words, getting even louder. She stumbled once and she was mixing up drinks, things like that.
Your Honor, at this time, permission to screen share what's been pre-marked as Exhibit 10 constructively outside the view of the jury.
Very well.
Hi everyone, Morgan and I are in Hollywood. We're at a bar. It's kind of like a Philly bar, except everything is really, really expensive. $10 for a seltzer. And everyone here wants to be a model or an actress. I'd like to thank the Academy. Mom and Dad, you've inspired me. Okay, well, go big or go home.
Ms. Levin, did you recognize the video that I just played for you?
Yes, I do. I took that video of Jessica Marks at Sunny's bar.
Does this appear to be a fair and accurate copy of the video you took on March 24th?
Yes, it's the exact same.
Your Honor, at this time, plaintiff offers Exhibit 10, into evidence.
Any objections?
Without objection, Your Honor.
All right, then it will be admitted.
Plaintiff would also like to publish Exhibit 10 to the jury.
It may be published as well.
Ms. Levin, you told us earlier that the shots Sunny Maida served you were served at around 11 o'clock. What time was this video taken?
This was also taken right around 11 o'clock.
I want to go back to when Sunny Maida served you those shots. Did he say anything to the 2 of you?
Yeah, he did. He pointed at Jessica and looked at me and said, "I hope this one's not driving home."
Did Sunny Maida serve Jessica Marks any drinks even after he said that?
Yes, he did. That was when he gave her those green tea shots.
Ms. Levin, how did the 2 of you plan on getting home that night?
Well, I called an Uber and Jessica Marks was driving home.
Can you tell us what you saw after Jessica left the parking lot that night?
I was right behind her in my Uber, and I saw her car go over the divide and into a ravine, and I told my Uber driver to stop.
Did Jessica survive that crash?
No, she didn't.
Thank you, Miss Levin. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Lee, you wish to cross-examine?
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed?
Anytime you are ready.
Good morning, Ms. Levin.
Good morning.
I want to start by showing you a video. Your Honor, let the record reflect that my co-counsel is now screen sharing Exhibit 6. Ms. Acosta, could we get that video back up?
Hey guys, we're going out tonight for a night on the town. We're going to a rooftop bar in Hollywood. Should be fun. You know, go hard or go home. Not ready to go home.
Ms. Levin, you took that video, right?
Yes.
You
Well,
took.
Jessica Marks took that video, but I was with her when she did.
And that video was taken at 8:15 p.m.?
Correct, at her Airbnb.
Right. So that was before you went to Sunny's rooftop bar.
Yes, it was.
Now, I want to talk a bit about Jessica's decisions on the night of March 24th, 2019. Like you've mentioned, you started off the night at Jessica's Airbnb, right?
Yes, we did.
And as you've mentioned, at Jessica's Airbnb, Jessica decided to have some wine.
She did. She had a glass, maybe 2 of wine.
And you stayed there until 8:30 p.m.
Yes, it was around then that we left for Sunny's rooftop bar.
And when you left, Jessica decided to drive the both of you to Sunny's.
Yes, she did. At that point, she wasn't drunk, and so we drove there.
And you arrived at 9 p.m.
Yes, that's true.
Now, you testified on direct examination that that's a 45-minute drive, but 8:30 to 9 p.m., that's 30 minutes, isn't it?
Yes, I live in California, and the traffic it's touch and go. It could be 30 minutes and it could be an hour. You never know.
But on that day, it was 30 minutes.
Yes, that's true.
When you did get to the bar, you saw Jessica drink.
I did, yes.
You stayed at the bar until 11:41 p.m.
Yes, that's true. At that point, Sunny had served her throughout the entire evening.
I didn't ask who served her. I just asked that you stayed there for over 2.5 hours, right?
I did, yes.
And 11:45 p.m., after you left, Jessica Marks decided to drive.
She did, and none of the bartenders stopped her or anything.
Didn't ask if the bartender stopped her, but we can talk about that too. The bartenders weren't outside when she decided to drive, were they?
No, when she was leaving, Sunny was standing on the stairs and she bumped into him, and then she left right after.
So your testimony here is that Jessica Marks bumped into Sunny Mehta as she was leaving?
Well, when she was walking down the stairs was when she bumped into Sunny Mehta.
When she walked down the stairs to leave the bar?
No, that was a little bit earlier in the evening.
All right, just wanted to clear that up for the jury. Now let's talk a little bit about what the members at Sunny's rooftop bar saw.
Okay.
You were sitting on the roof, right?
Yes, that's where pretty much everyone sits. It's the prettiest view in the whole city.
That's where Jessica was sitting too?
Correct, yes.
And on the floor below the roof, well, that's the bar, right?
Right, that's where Frankfurt Johnson was mixing the drinks.
And you never saw Frankfurt Johnson anywhere on the roof?
No, Frankfurt pretty much stayed downstairs to mix the drinks.
And that server you mentioned, Sunny Mehta, he never interacted with you for more than a minute at a time, right?
Right, that's true. He would just come, take our orders, and later bring our drinks.
All right, and now let's talk a little bit about some of the things you mentioned on direct examination.
Okay.
That video that you showed us of Jessica at the bar, well, You didn't see Frankfurt Johnson around when you were taking that video, did you?
No, I was pretty focused on Jessica, but I don't think he was around.
You didn't see Sunny Mehta around when you were taking that video, did you?
No, same thing. I was focused on Jessica. She was acting drunk and crazy.
You didn't show that video to anyone at Sunny's rooftop bar?
No, of course not.
And that video, it was later posted onto Twitter, right?
Yes, it was.
All right, and you told us today that Jessica had quite a bit to drink, right?
She did, yes, and I could tell.
Right, about 6 drinks, you would say?
Yes, and some of the wine, so whatever that would add up to.
Well, you talked to police officers on the day Jessica Marks passed away, right?
I did, yes.
You told them that Jessica only had a few drinks.
I did say that, yes. I just watched my best friend get into a car accident, and I was a stress disaster.
Well, I'm sure because you only told them that Jessica had 3 drinks.
I did say that, yes, but she had more than that.
But between telling the police officers that Jessica had 3 drinks and telling us on stand today that she had around 6, you were threatened with a lawsuit from Ethel Marks, weren't you?
Well, I heard that there was a possibility that she could sue me, yes, but she never followed through with it.
But that's a yes. She threatened to sue you for Jessica's death.
Correct, yes.
And in between saying Jessica had 3 drinks and telling us on stand today that she had 6, well, you met with the Marks family lawyers.
Yes, I did.
You met with them for 3 hours.
Yes, I told them a lot of the same things I'm telling you today, the story of what happened and how drunk she was acting.
You told them that story the day before you gave your deposition.
I did, yes.
And Ms. Levin, you were drinking that day too, weren't you?
I was. Less than Jessica, but I had had some to drink, yes.
You had a glass of wine?
Yes.
You had 2 glasses, actually. One at the Airbnb too?
Correct, yes. One at the Airbnb and one at Sunny's.
You had a green tea shot?
I did, and I also had one of the IPAs.
All right. No further questions, John.
Any redirect?
Your Honor, there will be no redirect examination. The witness may be excused.
All right, then the witness is excused. And we'll go into next witness. I believe you only get 1 witness per side. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
All right, then Ms. Lee, anytime you're ready to call defense witness, you may proceed.
Your Honor, at this time, the defense calls Sunny Mehta to the stand. Your Honor, may I proceed?
Anytime you're ready.
Good morning. Please introduce yourself to the members of the jury.
Good morning. My name is Sunny Mehta, and I'm a businessman.
So you say you're a businessman? Well, what was your latest business venture?
Well, it was this bar that I created in my image. It was called Sunny's Rooftop Bar. I bought it, and then I recreated it to have this beautiful view of the Western Malibu beach. That's my whole selling point.
And how's your bar doing now?
My bar's not running. I had my liquor license taken away back in 2019 after something that happened on March 24th.
Can you tell us what happened on March 24th, 2019?
Yeah, this girl, her name was Jessica Marks. She arrived at my bar with her friend, and it turns out that she was a minor. And she had a fake ID, so I didn't know, and I served her.
Objection, Your Honor. Lack of foundation.
All right.
Your Honor, may I inquire what opposing counsel is referring to when he says lack of foundation?
All right. Why don't we do that then, Mr. Morales?
Yes, Your Honor. Your Honor, this witness just testified that he knew, without any prior testimony or foundation being laid, that Jessica Marks was in fact underage and that she was using a fake ID. Your Honor, we haven't even seen any exhibits displayed, one of which I believe is the fake ID he's talking about for the members of the jury. As of right now, Your Honor, there's a lack of foundation for him to testify to that.
Your Honor, may I respond?
Yes, of course.
Well, for one, the fact that Jessica Marks was a minor, that's an undisputed fact. We've already agreed to that. Everyone knows she was 19. And as for the fact that the fake ID hasn't been introduced, well, Mr. Mehta just testified that he was the owner of Sunny's Rooftop Bar.
Your Honor, may I be heard?
Yes.
Your Honor, the fact that this was the owner of Sunny's Rooftop Bar does not give him sufficient foundation to testify that Jessica Marks was using a fake ID. Your Honor, those two are completely unrelated. And also, Your Honor, opposing counsel said something quite interesting. Everyone knew Jessica Marks was 19. Your Honor, that's exactly what the lack of foundation objection is made for, to prevent testimony like that from coming out.
Your Honor, may I respond to that?
One at a time. Let Mr. Morales finish, and then I'll give you an opportunity to respond, Ms. Lee.
Your Honor, to the extent opposing counsel said everybody knew that, that's exactly what the lack of foundation objection was created for, to prevent testimony like that from coming out. Your Honor, in order for the witness to testify to that, he must lay foundation for it, through his observations or through knowledge, through whatever means he may have known that information.
All right, Ms. Lee, you wish to respond?
Well, as for the fake ID, I can lay that foundation now. But as for the fact that Ms. Marks was 19, that's a stipulated fact. Mr. Morales has agreed to that in the pretrial proceedings himself. That's not an issue in dispute today.
One last word, Your Honor.
All right, I will give Mr. Morales one last opportunity, then I'll give Ms. Lee an opportunity to respond, and then I'm going to rule.
Yes, Your Honor. I just wanted to remind the court that despite the fact that there were stipulations between the two parties, witnesses during their live testimony, during examinations, are still required to give foundation for information that without it would be odd without that foundation, there would be no way for them to have actually known how they knew that. Despite the fact it's stipulated, Your Honor, he still must lay foundation during his testimony.
Ms. Lee?
Your Honor, the fact that Jessica Marks was minor, I stand by my word. That's why we're here. It's been stipulated. This is the exact reason why he's here. And that's what I asked him, why he's here to testify today. And he told us, because he learned from the trial proceedings, from this lawsuit, that Jessica Marks was a minor. I think that's enough, Your Honor. That's enough foundation.
All right, well, so my ruling then, as far as stipulated facts, they are in evidence. That's the purpose of a stipulation. I think it's also an element of the cause of action here too. If the decedent had not been a minor, we may not have this cause of action. So the fact that she's a minor and stipulated, the objection is overruled as to that. As to the ID having been a fake one, I haven't heard enough testimony or seen enough documents yet, so the objection will be sustained as to the fake evidence, subject to further foundation.
Yes,
Your
Your
Honor,
Honor.
before we proceed, motion to strike any testimony the witness gave about this fake ID.
I think that we can just simply give a jury instruction that any testimony about being it fake will be out, whether she showed an ID, that's still an established fact. But the question of it being fake at this point, then I'm just going to instruct the jury that that portion only will be stricken, and then we'll proceed.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Mehta, or Mr. Mehta, were you on shift on the night of March 24th, 2019?
I was. It was a Sunday, so it was light on customers. It was just me and my bartender, Frankfurt.
Well, on that day, did you see Jessica Marks enter your bar?
I did. She came in with her friend. Her name is Morgan.
Your Honor, now let the record reflect that my co-counsel is screen sharing Exhibit 17. It's been pre-admitted in the direct examination of Morgan Levin already. Do you recognize this exhibit, Mr. Mehta?
Yes, that's the receipt that I gave to them.
Did you give this receipt to them at the end of the night?
Yeah, like I said, I gave it to them.
And that writing in blue, do you know whose writing that is?
Well, considering it's signed, I do. It was Miss Levin's.
Did you see her sign this
Objection,
receipt?
Your Honor. Speculation. May I be heard?
All right.
Your Honor, I believe the witness testified, well, it's her signature, so it's Morgan Levin. Your Honor, based off that specific testimony, the way it's phrased, it's speculative.
Your Honor, may I respond?
Yes, Ms. Lee.
I can lay that foundation right now.
All right. Well, subject to further foundation, at this time, the objection is sustained. You may proceed.
Mr. Mehta, did you see Morgan Levin sign this receipt?
I did.
And the writing in blue, is that Miss Levin's writing?
It is.
I want to focus on the bottom, how much she paid. Is there anything wrong with the math here?
Well, yeah, there is. If you look, it said her total was 119 and the gratuity was 20, but she actually added 30 to gratuity. I'm not sure what she did that.
All right, and Mr. Mehta, on the night of March 24th, what were your responsibilities?
Well, I was bringing the orders because Frankfurt was running the bar, and then I was serving the orders. I had to bring the drinks up from the downstairs of the bar.
Do you remember how much Jessica Marks ordered?
I don't remember exactly. I recall that Jessica Marks and Morgan, they ordered about the same amount.
Now, I'm going to get back to that, but first I want to ask, as a bar owner, did you have to go through any training?
Of course. I'm certified by the Responsible Beverage Service course.
And this Responsible Beverage Service course, what information does it cover?
Well, most importantly, it covers how to recognize symptoms of intoxication. Also, it serves reminders that I can't serve minors.
So as a bar owner, what symptoms of intoxication did you look out for?
Well, I'm looking mainly for the most obvious ones. Staggering, flushed face, when people drop their drinks, and obviously when people are collapsing.
From your experience, what you've seen, do you consider how much someone's been drinking?
I think I can make an estimate.
All right, now returning to the night of March 24th, 2019. When Jessica Marks walked into your bar, how drunk did she look?
Perfectly sober.
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation and improper expert opinion.
Your Honor, may I respond to that?
Yes.
Your Honor, looking drunk, that's lay opinion. That's based on his rational perception because you can see the symptoms of drunkenness. Red eyes, slurring words, things like that. And I specifically asked, how drunk did she look? That's lay opinion under 701, Your Honor.
Your Honor, may I be heard?
Yes, Mr. Morales.
Your Honor, I would disagree with opposing counsel that the adjective drunkenness is something that's immediately observable. Your Honor, drunkenness, if you think about it, implies a certain degree of intoxication. It requires the witness to testify as to the degree of Jessica Marks's intoxication. Your Honor, to the extent this, or rather opposing counsel wants this witness to testify as to the symptoms of intoxication that Jessica Marks was exhibiting, he can go ahead and do that. But to have him testify as to the degree of intoxication, Your Honor, the word drunk implying that there is a degree, it's inadmissible.
Your Honor, may I respond?
You may, Ms. Lee, and then I'll give Mr. Morales an opportunity to respond, and then I will rule.
Your Honor, though drunkenness may imply a certain level of intoxication, it's also generally considered that a certain level of intoxication has symptoms. Symptoms like red eyes, like slurring words, all things based on rational perception, and all things that can be entered as lay opinion under 701.
All right, Mr. Morales.
Your Honor, I stand by my previous argument. To the extent opposing counsel wants this witness to testify as to the symptoms of intoxication, Your Honor, seeing as intoxication, that word does not imply a specific degree of intoxication. But for this witness to testify that Jessica Marks was exhibiting symptoms of drunkenness, Your Honor, that's an improper expert opinion because it implies Jessica Marks was experiencing a certain degree of intoxication. It is an improper opinion and is not admissible.
All right. As I recall, the testimony was that he appeared to be drunk, or she appeared to be drunk, not that she was drunk. Under 701, a lay witness is allowed to give an opinion if it's based upon the witness's perception, if it's helpful to an understanding of the testimony, and if it's not based on scientific, technical, or other specialized knowledge. I don't think that you need to be an expert to observe slurred speech, red eyes, perhaps the odor of alcohol in one's breath. All of those things might be symptoms of intoxication. I think that a person can say that the person who was drinking appeared to be drunk, without stating that they are drunk. So I'm going to overrule the objection at this time.
So, Mr. Mehta, when Jessica Marks entered your bar, how drunk did she appear?
She looked completely sober.
And over the course of the night, did that change?
For Jessica Marks, it didn't look like it changed.
Now, what about Morgan Levin? When she walked into your bar, how drunk did she look?
Just like Jessica, she looked like she was sober.
And over the course of that night, did that change?
It did. She looked like she was getting drunker. She looked like she was staggering, and she was fumbling a little, remember, when she signed the receipt, but she wasn't drunk to the level that I would have deemed it necessary to cut her off. Thankfully, I knew that she wasn't driving.
How did you know she wasn't driving?
Well, I actually asked them about it. When Jessica asked to order another drink, I took a look at Morgan and I nodded my head at her and I said, I hope this one's not driving. Thankfully, Jessica told me that she would be driving.
Now I want to talk about some of the things that have been brought out in trial today. Were you here for the direct examination of Morgan Levin?
Well, I was.
Did you see the video that plaintiff counsel showed of Jessica at your bar?
I did.
Did anyone show you that video on the night of March 24th, 2019?
No.
Did you see that video being recorded?
Of course I did.
And did you hear Morgan Levin testify about an incident where Jessica stumbled onto you?
I did hear her testify about that.
Do you remember that ever happening?
No, I'm not sure what she was on about.
All right, and fast forwarding to the end of the night, how drunk did Jessica Marks look when she exited your bar?
She looked about pretty sober.
Did you call her a cab?
No, it didn't look like it was necessary.
No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
Mr. Morales, you wish to cross?
I do, Your Honor. May I proceed?
Anytime you're ready.
Mr. Mehta, Jessica Marks was drinking with her friend Morgan Levin at your bar on the night of March 24th. I have that correct?
Yes, she was.
You served them several rounds of drinks. That's correct?
I served them a couple rounds, yes.
Okay, well, I want to talk about those drinks, all right? Your Honor, permission to screen share Exhibit 17.
All right.
Mr. Mehta, I'm showing you what's been marked as Exhibit 17. It's been entered into evidence as Morgan Levin's receipt. I want to start with the first transaction. That decoy red blend, that's an entire bottle of wine, right?
Yes, that's a bottle of wine.
And Mr. Mehta, just to be clear, to your knowledge, this wine was of 14% alcohol concentration, right?
My memory recalls it was.
They ordered 3 White Claws, right?
They did.
Actually, let me be more clear about that. Jessica Marks was the person who ordered those White Claws, right?
I can't quite remember who ordered what, counselor.
Mr. Mehta, you took their orders, right?
I did take their orders.
So what you're telling us is you just don't remember?
Well, sir, it was 2 years ago. I have hundreds of customers a week.
All right, Mr. Maida. I want to go down to those IPAs. They ordered both of those too, right?
Yes, they did.
And then that last transaction, they ordered shots of liquor, right?
Yes, that was our special that night.
Mr. Maida, just to be clear, you were aware that these drinks were being served only between two young girls, right?
I'm sorry, could you rephrase?
Mr. Maida, you're aware that these drinks were being split between two young women. Those are the only people these drinks were being split among. That's correct?
Yes.
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation.
Your Honor, may I be heard?
All right.
Your Honor, it's not speculation. The witness testified that he served Morgan and Jessica every single drink that was listed on the receipt. Your Honor, to the extent there was a third party who came out of nowhere and started drinking with them, seeing as how Mr. Maida was taking their orders the entire night, he would have been able to see that. Your Honor, he's not testifying as to that, so it's not speculation.
Your Honor, may I respond?
Yes, of course, Ms. Lee.
Though Mr. Maida may have been serving their drinks, it doesn't mean that he actually knows or that he actually saw who was drinking the drinks, whether it's Jessica or Morgan or a third party. Just because he was serving them, just because he was there when the drinks were delivered, doesn't mean he was there when the drinks were had, when the drinks were drank, or that he saw anyone else drink them.
I am inclined to agree. I think that it may be speculative at this time. I don't know how busy the bar was, if there are other people, if somebody's buying a beverage for somebody at the next table. So the point is taken. I do find it to be speculative at this time.
Your Honor, I could rephrase.
All right.
Mr. Maida, to your knowledge, these drinks were only being split between Morgan and Jessica.
Well, it would seem like that. I wouldn't know for sure, though.
Mr. Maida, I want to address those shots on that receipt. These were their last round of drinks for the end of the night, right?
The green tea shots, yes.
And you had a conversation with them when you brought them those shots, that's correct?
Could you be more specific, counselor? I talked to them several times.
Of course. Mr. Maida, you claimed on direct examination that you asked Jessica Marks if Morgan Levin was driving home, right?
Oh, counselor, I think you're mistaken. I had that conversation when Jessica asked me to order another drink.
Mr. Maida, that is when, or rather, this conversation took place when you brought them their shots, right?
When they were ordering, yes.
Okay, Mr. Maida, to your knowledge, Jessica Marks was going to be the one to drive home, right?
Yes, she said that she would be driving.
And to your knowledge, Morgan Levin appeared too intoxicated to drive?
She appeared a little drunk. I didn't think it was safe.
Exactly. It comforted you that Jessica Marks was going to be the one to drive, didn't it?
Wouldn't say comforted, but yes, I guess it did put me at ease.
Immediately after Jessica Marks told you that she was going to be the one to drive, you served her a shot of liquor?
Yes, counselor. She'd been there for 3 hours, and I thought she would be fine.
Well, you served them this shot at the end of the night, right?
It was around the end of the night. I wasn't sure when they'd be leaving.
So just to be clear, Jessica Marks didn't have this shot of liquor towards the beginning of the night, did she?
No, she had it more into the night.
Mr. Maida, I want to take a look at what Jessica Marks looked like at your bar on the night of March 24th. Your Honor, permission to screen share Exhibit 10.
All right.
Hi everyone, Morgan and I are in Hollywood. We're at a bar. It's kind of like a Philly bar, except everything is really, really expensive. $10 for a seltzer. And everyone here wants to be a model or an actress. I'd like to thank the Academy. Mom and Dad, you've inspired me. Okay, well, Go big or go home.
Mr. Maida, you would agree that this video is of Jessica Marks, right?
Yes, that's her right there.
You would agree that this video was taken at your bar, right?
From the couch, yeah, it definitely looks like it was my bar.
Jessica Marks appears intoxicated in this video, right?
Not exactly.
Mr. Maida, I just want to be clear for the members of the jury. It's your testimony that Jessica Marks doesn't look intoxicated in this video?
Sir, there's different levels of intoxication, and Jessica Marks, I'm not sure the circumstances of this video.
Okay, well, I'm not asking about the circumstances of this video. Either Jessica Marks looks intoxicated or she doesn't. Which one is it, Mr. Maida?
I think she looks buzzed, Mr. Morales.
So that's a yes, she appears intoxicated.
Yes.
Your Honor, permission to screen share Exhibit 1 for the witness.
All right.
Mr. Maida, a couple of years ago, your bar actually faced criminal charges for serving someone who was underage. That's correct?
Yes, a minor came into our bar, and he got hurt later that night.
Objection, Your Honor. Inadmissible character evidence.
Your Honor, may I be heard?
Yes.
Your Honor, this exhibit is admissible under Federal Rule of Evidence Code 609, impeachment by a prior conviction.
Your Honor, may I respond to that?
Yes.
Impeachment by a prior conviction under 609 is only applicable when the conviction is one of a crime of dishonesty or a felony. This is neither.
It does appear to be a misdemeanor. I'm also concerned that its probative value may be outweighed by the prejudicial effect. The jurors may be inclined to confuse the charge from that case to the one in this case. So I'm going to rule the exhibit inadmissible.
Yes, Your Honor. At this time, plaintiff has no further questions.
All right. Will there be any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor, very briefly. Now, Mr. Mehta, do you know how much Jessica actually drank that night?
I can't be sure. I delivered the drinks to the table that both Morgan and Jessica were there.
And you said that it put you at ease when Jessica said she was driving. Why is that?
Like I said, Jessica looked sober. She looked fine. But
No further questions, Your Honor. My apologies. Did you get to finish?
I was just finishing up. Like I said, Morgan, she didn't look like she'd be fit to drive.
All right. No further questions at this time, Your Honor.
All right. I don't know if there's time left for a recross.
Briefly, Your Honor. May I proceed?
Yes.
Counselor, I don't think your video is on.
Excuse me. Did not realize. Thank you for clarifying that. Now, Mr. Maida, you just testified that you thought Morgan Levin seemed unfit to drive, right?
Yeah, just from the way that she was walking and the way that she signed the check.
You testified that you were comforted by Jessica Marks driving, right?
Well, Jessica Marks planning to drive, yes.
But despite that, you served both of them a shot of liquor towards the end of the night anyways, didn't you?
Objection, Your Honor. Asked and answered.
Overruled.
Mr. Maida, you served them both with a shot of liquor anyways, that's correct?
Yes, I wasn't sure when they'd be leaving, but I did serve them both a shot of liquor.
No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. I think we're out of time on that anyway. So, Before we go into closing arguments, if everyone would switch back to speaker view. Also, since both witnesses have completed their testimony, you can complete the witness portion of the ballots at this time. We'll just take a moment to do that. And if we are ready at this time, then we can proceed with closing arguments. Mr. Morales, are you ready to give the plaintiff's closing?
Yes, Your Honor. May I proceed?
Anytime you're ready.
It's March 24th, 2019. Already long past midnight. Jessica Marks is lying at the bottom of a ravine. She's gasping for air. Her vertebrae is snapped in two. Jessica knows. This is it. This is the end of my college career, the end of my lifelong friendship with Morgan Levin, the end of my life. The end of her life because members of the jury on the night of March 24th didn't care. Members of the jury, today the plaintiff has brought a claim of wrongful death against the defendant, Sonny's Rooftop Bar. In order to have proved that Sonny's Rooftop Bar in fact caused Jessica Marks' death, we must have proved that 1, the defendant served Jessica Marks alcohol while a reasonable person, members of the jury, not the defendant, a reasonable person would have been able to realize she was intoxicated. And 2, that the drinks Jessica Marks was served while she was obviously intoxicated were a substantial cause in her death on the night of March 24th. Members of the jury, today we've met our burden of proof. We've proved each element to be more likely than not what happened on the night of March 24th. Let's think back to the testimony we heard today, members of the jury. Think back to the testimony of Morgan Levin. She told you that by 6 p.m., Jessica had already started drinking and that she was visibly intoxicated at 9 o'clock when they entered Sonny's Rooftop Bar. Red face, red eyes, slurring her words. Members of the jury, those are signs of intoxication. But what else did Morgan Levin tell us? Morgan Levin told us that Sonny Maida, the owner of Sonny's Rooftop Bar, came to and from their table to serve them over 6 rounds of drinks. Members of the jury, she told you about how Sonny Maida frequently interacted with them over the course of the night, and how he never once asked Jessica Marks if she felt okay, how much she'd had to drink. Members of the jury, Sonny Maida wasn't concerned with anything of the sort. But what else did Morgan Levin tell us? What drinks was Sonny Maida serving them? Consciously, I remind you. A 14% bottle of wine, 3 White Claws, 2 draft beers in mugs, and finally, members of the jury, to top it off, for Sonny Maida to make sure they had the best night they could, 2 shots of liquor. The 2 shots of liquor that would ultimately lead to the end of Jessica Marks' life. But what else did Morgan Levin tell us about those shots of liquor? Members of the jury, you're asking yourself, how do we know that Sonny Maida knew they were intoxicated? Well, let's take a look at that conversation the two of them had just before they left that night. Members of the jury, Sonny Maida wants you to think that he believes Jessica looked sober and that Morgan Levin looked intoxicated. But what did he tell us? He told us that when Jessica Marks was the one who said, "Oh, I'm the one who's driving," what did he do? He served her a shot of liquor less than 30 minutes before he knew she was about to drive Morgan Levin home. Members of the jury, that's a ridiculous claim. Members of the jury, what makes more sense is that Sonny Maida just didn't care. Sonny Maida didn't care whether or not Jessica looked sober, and he didn't care whether or not Jessica Marks looked intoxicated. That's why he served them those shots of liquor, members of the jury. And if you're still having trouble to convince yourself, well, how do we know that Sonny Maida knew Jessica Marks was intoxicated? Take a look at Exhibit 10, members of the jury. A slurred speech, not making any sense. And when was this video taken, I remind you? 11 o'clock p.m. And when exactly did Morgan Levin tell you, or rather, when did Morgan tell you, at what time did Morgan tell you Sonny Maida served them those shots? 11 o'clock. So what that means, members of the jury, is the Jessica Marks you saw in that video is exactly the same Jessica Marks that Sonny Maida saw on the night of March 24th, 2019. And obviously intoxicated Jessica Marks. Members of the jury, you even heard Sonny Maida admit on cross-examination that when Jessica Marks said she was going to be the one to drive, he just served her a shot. Members of the jury, apart from what we're here to decide today, that is negligence. That goes to Mr. Maida's character. Members of the jury, it tends to make it more likely than not that he did serve Jessica Marks while she was obviously intoxicated, that he didn't care that Jessica was intoxicated, that he didn't listen to what Jessica Marks' symptoms were exhibiting that night, because members of the jury, the defendant just didn't want to listen. The defendant didn't want to try at any point to stop Jessica from drinking. And as I told you this before today's trial started, members of the jury, the defendant simply didn't care. For all those reasons, we ask that you find the defendant liable for what happened to Jessica Marks on the night of March 24th, 2019. Because members of the jury, even if you find Sonny's Rooftop Bar was liable, Jessica Marks didn't win. Jessica Marks lost because the defendant didn't listen, didn't try, and didn't care. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morales. And Ms. Lee, are you ready to proceed with the defense closing argument at this time?
Yes, Your Honor, but before I do, Ms. Acosta, we'll be screen sharing some demonstratives during the closing. And so now I want to take the opportunity to suggest that any judges or jurors click on view options at the top and choose side-by-side mode, and then drag the bar in the middle so that the screen is evenly distributed between whatever is being screen shared and my video. All right, and with that, we are ready to proceed. Ms. Acosta, you can take that down now.
Anytime you're ready.
May it please the court. No. Ms. Acosta?
Hey guys, we're going out tonight for a night on the town. We're going to a rooftop bar in Hollywood. Should be fun. You know, go hard or go home. Not ready to go home.
8:15 p.m. That's 3.5 hours before Jessica Marks died. That's Jessica Marks calling the shots, and her call is go hard or go home. Call it prophecy or irony, she hits the nail right on the head. Because members of the jury, we know she did go hard that night, but we also know she never went home. We can't even imagine the grief that Jessica's family is feeling right now. But what we do understand is the need to find a reason, to figure out why a 19-year-old girl with so much life ahead of her ended up at the bottom of a ravine. But sometimes, when we ask why, when we ask for an answer, we find one. And sometimes it's a hard truth to face. Today we found our answer, and our hard truth is that Jessica Marks called the shots. She made dangerous decisions, and those decisions killed her. Of course, the plaintiff has her own story. They've been telling you all day that that Sunny's rooftop bar didn't listen, didn't try, didn't care. But it's not enough to just tell you. They had to prove it to you. Because you can't listen to something that's not there. You can't try to fix a problem you don't know exists. You can't care. You don't know you should. They had a burden today to prove every element of their claim by a preponderance of the evidence. They had to prove to you today that Jessica Marks was obviously intoxicated. They had to prove to you today that Sunny's rooftop bar knew. They failed. No, they tried to tell you about a stumble. They tried to tell you about Jessica stumbling into Sunny Mehta, but you heard Mr. Mehta's testimony. You heard that that never actually happened. Morgan Levin tried to tell you about all the drinks that Jessica had on that night, but she admitted on cross-examination that on the night of the accident, she only said that Jessica had 3 drinks. And she admitted that in the process of changing her story, she was threatened with a lawsuit. She met with the Marks family lawyers. Money can do a lot of things to people. But whatever her reason, she changed her story. Who knows how much she's changed? The plaintiff, they also tried to tell you a video and say that that's proof. But consider the context. Jessica Marks is posing in front of a camera. She's posing for Twitter. She's doing an impression of a celebrity. This isn't her being obviously intoxicated. This is her fooling around. We don't know if this was how she was actually acting. And even if we did, what we do know is that that video was posted not at 11 p.m. as opposing counsel just said, but at 11:11 p.m. And your stipulations and evidence right there. And according to Morgan Levin, well, the shots were served at 11 p.m. According to Morgan Levin's testimony, that video was recorded after all the drinks were already served. And what both witnesses today agree on is that Sunny Mehta wasn't anywhere nearby when that video was recorded. Neither was Frankfurt Johnson. Oh, the plaintiff, they also tried to tell you about a comment that Mr. Mehta made. I hope this one isn't driving, but you learned today that that comment was directed at Morgan Levin. Morgan Levin, who couldn't even do basic addition at the end of the night. Morgan Levin, who admitted she'd been drinking. Morgan Levin, who changed her story. Morgan Levin, whose testimony you cannot trust. The plaintiff has failed their burden, and if you agree with me there, I have nothing more to say. But if you don't, that's where I ask you to consider that difficult question, to decide who's really responsible. Today, you learned about Jessica Marks's decisions. You learned that before she even went into Sunny's rooftop bar, she made her first key decision to drink at the Airbnb. You learned that after she decided to drink, she decided to drive. And remember that video I showed you, Go Hard or Go Home? She was planning to drink at Sunny's that night. She didn't call a cab, though. She didn't catch a bus in anticipation. She drove to Sunny's. And at Sunny's, she decides to drink for 2.5 hours. And after 2.5 hours of drinking, she makes her final decision. She decides to drive. And it kills her. Members of the jury, all of these decisions, they represent more than just negligence. They represent missed opportunities. Opportunities where Jessica Marks could have turned back. Jessica Marks could have decided not to drink at her Airbnb. She didn't. She could have decided to get a ride to Sunny's rooftop bar. She didn't. She could have decided not to drink at Sunny's rooftop bar. She didn't. She could have decided to get in that Uber, to listen to her friend begging and pleading for her to stay. She didn't. Time and time again, Jessica Marks calls the shots. She makes the wrong calls. She makes the negligent calls. Remember, she drinks and drives twice that day, to and from the bar. Both times she puts people in danger, herself, her best friend in the passenger seat, the other drivers on that road. Sunny's rooftop bar wasn't anything special. It was just a change of scenery. You've heard all the evidence, heard all the testimony. Now you have to decide that difficult question. You have to decide who's really responsible. You have to find Sunny's Rooftop Bar not liable. Thank you.
Rebuttal from the plaintiff, Your Honor.
All right. Anytime you're ready.
Members of the jury, Miss Lee just got up here and misrepresented a whole lot of facts. She told you that Exhibit 10 was posted on Instagram at 11:11. But members of the jury, let's remember what's true. The video was taken, as Morgan Levin testified, recorded, not posted, at 11 p.m. What else did Morgan Levin tell you? That at 11 p.m., Sonny Maida came over, the drink tray in his hand, asked Jessica, oh, Morgan's not driving, even though Morgan Levin, didn't say that. Members of the jury, that's their claim. He said this and then got confirmation Jessica was driving and served her a shot anyways. That's complete negligence, members of the jury. That, regardless of whether or not you believe Morgan Levin in saying that he was speaking to her, members of the jury, that goes to his character. Shows that it's more likely than not he did in fact serve Jessica Marks alcohol while she was obviously intoxicated. Let's talk about Exhibit 10, members of the jury.
Your Honor, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I believe plaintiff counsel's time is elapsed.
That's correct, Your Honor. I was actually about to stop speaking. I just saw. And with that, Your Honor, the plaintiff rests their case.
All right, then we'll just take a few minutes to complete the ballots, and then we'll have comments after that. And then